Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for coming today. I'm Barb Goffman, and I am a member of the Chesapeake Chapter of Sisters in Crime. In case you don't know, Sisters in Crime is an international organization of more than 4,000 members devoted to the idea of equality between the sexes. When the organization began in the 1980s, it was realized that even though women wrote more than half of the mysteries and they read more than half of the mysteries and they bought more than half of the mysteries, they were not getting anywhere near even half of the promotion and the purchasing and everything good. So this organization was started to try to promote parity within the industry. And things have improved a lot, but there is still room for improvement. So if you believe in equality, we believe in you, and Sisters in Crime is a good place for you. If you're not a member, we have a national organization, and there is our local chapter, and there are chapters all over the country and in other countries as well. So it's sistersincrime.com, I think, maybe .org, and you can check it out. Anyway, today we are having 13 authors of our chapter who have had something new published this year or will be published before the end of the year. And they're going to be telling you a little bit about their stories. I hope that you will stop over at Scrawl Books after the meeting and buy a lot of books, because books make great gifts for the holidays. And I'm going to turn it over to our first speaker, Donna Andrew,
who I think just successfully unmuted herself. Yay. Anyway, I had 2 books and a short story out this year, which means it was a very productive year for me because I don't always get around to writing many short stories. The first book I had out is The Falcon Always Wings Twice, my homage to James M. Cain. This takes place, for those who haven't heard of my series before, my publishers like a theme, continuity in your series. The theme for my books is that the title always has to have a bird, and preferably a bad pun involving a bird in it. And if I can come up with a bad pun involving a bird and then work that bird into the plot, my editor is jumping up and down. So The Falcon Always Wings Twice takes place at a Renaissance fair that my heroine's grandmother is running, and she's helping her grandmother with that. Then the other book, which came out more recently, is The Gift of the Magpie, which is a Christmas mystery. And in that, my heroine, Meg, she's participating in a charity called Helping Hands for the Holidays, where the local interfaith council, which in all the churches and synagogues, and they've now let in the Wiccans and the atheists. So it's pretty much all the women in town. They organize projects to help neighbors. They're building a ramp for a family that's having a grandmother move in. They're spreading manure on a little old lady's rose garden because she can't do it herself. And they're helping clear out the house of a hoarder. And I thought, what a great idea, finding a body in a hoarded house. But I didn't do that to my forensic people because that would be just too terrible. Those are both humorous mysteries. I write them so if you guess the criminal before the end of the book, but you're still having fun along the way, it's okay. I also wrote a short story. Josh Pachter, who's somewhere in the lineup there, edited a book called The Beat of Black Wings. Josh is a brother in crime, or Mr. in Crime, as we call him. And he edited an anthology, The Beat of Black Wings. All the stories had to be inspired by a song by Joni Mitchell. And I picked one of my favorite Joni Mitchell songs. It was Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire. And then I realized after I'd picked this song that it's not a funny song. And so my story in the book is, for those of you who like my humorous mysteries, you might or might not like this story. A lot of people like it, but you have to also like pretty dark. And I would show the cover, but I have no idea where my hard copy went. And Josh will now hold it up because it's a beautiful cover. Yay. Between this and my publisher, they do great covers for me. And if you order one of those books from Scroll, they can get together with me and we'll figure out a way to get signed for you if you really want a signed book for Christmas. And that's about it. Take it away, whoever's next.
Okay, I think it's me, Donna. So thank you, Donna.
I will
and
do.
Hello, everyone. You may not remember me. I am a member of Chesapeake Chapter. I'm Ellen Byram. I normally write The Crime of Fashion Mysteries, featuring Lacey Smithsonian, but today I'm going to talk about another book. But first, after thanking Chesapeake Chapter for so graciously having me, I want to say happy holidays to everybody. I hope you can all celebrate it, even though they may be much smaller in scope than we're used to. But it's my favorite holiday, so I'm going to do it also. It's great to start the kickoff to the Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, any kind of other celebration, so everybody buy books. Third, I do want to talk to you about my children's picture book, Sherlocktopus Holmes, 8 Arms of the Law. This is my first children's book, and it's giving you a glare, so I don't want to do that. I will tell you a little bit about my hero. He is in a book that's rhymed and metered. He is a sea creature. One creature stands out. No, rather he swims. He's smart as a dolphin, but doesn't have fins. He thinks with his head and his tentacles too. He turns different colors, like purple and blue. Sherlocktopus is an octopus. Holmes, his last name, with 8 arms of the law. Detecting's his game. This book also contains definitions. It covers some basic mystery concepts for children, you know, finding a lost object, following clues, and the definitions I think are kind of fun, like red herring. A herring is a fish that's silver or blue. A herring that's red can never be true. Don't chase a red herring, it's an untrue clue. So it's a story about finding a lost doll that's been thrown into the ocean by a very bad brother. And they have to encounter certain sea creatures and new concepts, new definitions. And one of my favorites, squid pro quo. So we are definitely going there. I just wanted to spend a moment telling you where the inspiration for this book came from. It came in a dream right after my very first book was published. I dreamt that I met with my New York agent or my editor, and she said, well, you know, your next book is fine, but what the publisher really wants is a crime-fighting octopus. And I was so mad. I woke up, I shook my husband awake, and I said, now they want crime-fighting octopus. And he just turned over and he said, well, I guess that's Sherlocktopus Holmes. So that's where Sherlocktopus went into my head for many years. So I finally got back to it. And the reason I got back to it is children at my church, you know, coffee and donuts afterwards. I was talking to their parents about one day I was going to write this book about Sherlocktopus Holmes. And every Sunday they would come up to me and say, have you written anything yet? How's it coming? I mean, it's really intimidating to have a 10-year-old say, hey, how long have you been working on that book? So I was really prompted by them. I was also very lucky to get a wonderful illustrator, and her name is Jacqueline Berkman Latignier. She is French, so she's very definite, and she will tell you what she thinks. And when she said she wanted to be considered for my book, she said, I will tell you if I do not like it. And I was sure she would. But we met in aqua aerobics, so I thought that was a good sign. I'd been to several of her shows, and we have learned so much in the interim working on this children's book. And I just want to say, if you are interested, I do have questions, study questions on my website at ellenbyram.com. And you can check that out. And I did not come up with them because I am a complete blank after a book is done. I can't think of anything. But I had a wonderful reader, Lila Steele, who wrote them and gave them to me. So I have posted them. So I guess that is what I wanted to say today. Thank you again for hosting me. I'm so glad to be here. And next on the list is Maya Corrigan. Oh, wait a minute. Maya.
Hi.
Marianne Corrigan. Take it away.
Hi. Thank you. I also want to thank Barb for putting this all together for another year of 2 extravaganzas this time, and Reston Regional Library for hosting it, and also Scroll Books for selling our books. My name is Marianne, or Maya Corrigan. I write as Maya Corrigan. I write the 5-ingredient mystery series featuring a cafe manager and her live wire grandfather who solve murders in a small town on the eastern shore of Maryland. The latest book is the 7th in the series, and it is a holiday mystery. It's called Ginger Dead Man. Everybody see that? I can't tell what's showing up on the screen. Ginger Dead Man takes place during Bayport's Dickens of a Holiday Festival. And Val and her granddad, like many people in the town, are dressed like Victorians, and they're there to add a little spirit for the tourists who have come to town to buy different gifts and visit different merchants and just have a good old Victorian Christmas. Now, Granddad is playing Scrooge, as he's dressed as Ebenezer Scrooge, and he is genuinely grumpy because he expected to play the town Santa, as he always does, but a newcomer to town has usurped his role. And this guy is kind of snarky and carries a flask around with him so his ho-ho-hos are getting a little slurred by the end of the day. Val, meanwhile, is serving English tea parties to tourists. But at the end of the day, she is giving a tea party for all of the volunteers who've been walking around in costumes. And they include characters from Dickens novels like Miss Havisham and The Ghost of Christmas Past, and Scrooge is included, of course. And then a rather uninvited guest shows up as people are sitting around the tea table. And this guest is dressed in black from head to toe, like the eeriest ghost in A Christmas Carol. The ghost goes around and deposits a gift in front of each of the volunteers' places at the table and silently leaves. Well, Santa is the first person to open his little gift, and he pulls out of his bag, oh, it's a ginger dead man. Oh, wait a minute. It is a ginger dead man. It's not a gingerbread man as he expected, but this is the ginger dead man. Now, this is more properly a Halloween cookie, not a Christmas cookie. And everybody's kind of put off by it, except for Santa, who is a well-known cookie lover and gobbles it down. And you can guess what happens next. He keels over. Now, this puts a little bit of a damper on the Christmas season when Santa just no longer is around, but people keep quiet about it. But then someone else gets a sweet and deadly gift. And there's only one thing in common between Santa and the second victim, and that is that Val has catered a meal for them both. So she has a vested interest in figuring out who done it before anybody else gets another deadly gift. So I had a lot of fun with this book because I played around a lot with the Dickens illusions and the characteristics of the people dressed in the costumes. And Dickens really has written in A Christmas Carol, a book that's largely about death. Now, it has a nice happy ending at the end, but if you think about it, that's what most mysteries are like too, all about death and then the brief happy ending. Now, if you're familiar with my series, you know that Granddad is a great fan of classic movies, especially Hitchcock. So in an earlier book and in this book, there are a number of allusions to Hitchcock films, and they have a way of dovetailing with the story that is going on. In addition, Val's new boyfriend has a Sherlock Holmes quote for every occasion. So there are these little fun things going on. And I also want to say that there is someone in our audience today, Elaine Neiman, who has a rather large role in this book. She bid for the rights to naming a character, and so she is also in Ginger Dead Man. One other thing I want to say before I close is that I did a lot of research on gingerbread and found out that there is a very dark side to the history of gingerbread men. And I wrote an article about that and the dark side of Santa for this month's Mystery Scene magazine that just came out. So there's a big picture of me in there. And I guess that counts as a second publication of sorts. So thank you again for coming. I hope everybody will buy some Christmas books or holiday Kwanzaa books, Hanukkah books, whatever you celebrate, and enjoy your holidays. And now I will pass this on to
Me.
Oh, Barb. Yes, I knew. I didn't even keep it here because I knew Barb was who I had to pass it on to, and it just flew out of my mind.
It's okay. Thanks, Ellen. I'm Marianne, sorry. Anyway, so hi again, I'm Barb Goffman, and I write short stories, and I had 5 of them out this year, so I'm going to get them all in 4 minutes or whatever we have. The first one is called Man to Man, and it is in The Beat of Black Wings, the crime fiction inspired by Joni Mitchell. I hope Josh can hold up the cover again because I don't have a copy. There it is. Okay. So I wrote my story before the pandemic, but it is extremely timely. So my story is about a woman whose family is in a financial downturn, and she's extroverted, and she's a trophy wife, and she is forced to stay at home all the time. She does not like social isolation, so she plans to remedy the matter, no matter the cost. My second story is going to be an anthology coming out on December 14th called Mickey Finn, 21st Century Noir. And this is a story about twins who were torn apart and placed in separate foster homes when they're 10 years old. When they turn 18, the one who had a better family is about to start college, and he goes out trying to find his long-lost brother, who is now homeless and living on the street. They do have a reunion, but it is not what you would find in a Hallmark movie. My third story that I'm going to talk about also is not out yet. It will be out in issue 8 of Black Hat Mystery Magazine, which is supposed to come out sometime in December. We'll see. And this is my homage to cozy mysteries. If you like cozies, I think you're really going to like this one. So in this story, an Inconvenient Truth, when a celebrated amateur sleuth is murdered, her best friend feels compelled to take up the mantle and try to find out what happened. Everything you can imagine in cozy mysteries in a whole novel, you're going to find in my book in a very compact formula, 25 pages. My next story is Eat, Drink, and Be Murdered, and that is in the current issue of Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine. And that's the November-December issue, and you can find that in bookstores and newsstands and online on Amazon. You can order a Kindle copy and other places, I'm sure, as well, Barnes & Noble. I don't know if Scroll has them. I don't think they do. Anyway, this story is called Eat, Drink, and Be Murdered, and it's a whodunit. The owner of a newspaper in a small southern city is facing, having to close the newspaper, and she wants to save it because she knows what an important role newspapers play in society. So she comes up with an idea to try to pump up circulation and advertising by running edgy restaurant reviews. And they run them, and they're funny, and they work. Circulation is up and advertising is up, but the restaurant owners are not happy. They don't think that all PR is good PR. And then there's a bomb threat, and then there's a murder. And who done it? Well, you'll have to read it to find out. And my final story I'm going to talk about is in the September-October issue of Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine. And it is called Dear Emily Etiquette. And this is a story written in letters between an etiquette columnist called Dear Emily Etiquette and a woman who is invited to her cousin's wedding, but only if she brings a date. And the bride's behavior becomes more and more demanding and outrageous as the story progresses, as detailed in letters to the etiquette columnist, until right before the wedding, the bridezilla pushes the nice cousin just a little bit too far. So she decides to make it a wedding that no one is ever going to forget. One reviewer called the story absolutely hilarious, which made me absolutely happy. If you can't find a paper copy of the issue because it's off the newsstands now, you can listen to me read it on the magazine's podcast. It was the October reading. And if you go to my website, barbgoffman.com, you can find a link. Or if you go to the EQMM website, there's a link there as well. And that's all I have. Thank you very much. Take it away, Eleanor.
Oh, that was wonderful, Barb. Compared to you, I am a slacker because I had one story come out this year, but I've got at least 2 for next year. So keep hope alive. And I love your etiquette story. I'm always amazed by all the creativity and all the fun titles and these wonderful talks. And I miss being live with you guys, but I'm really grateful for Reston Library to keep supporting us like this. And I just wanted to say thank you. So my one story this year is in the Invitation to Murder anthology, and I'm delighted to have a copy with me. And my story is based in Britain. And in order to add a little atmosphere, and because I'm nervous and I always like props to distract everyone, my pig is assisting me today. And she is fashion modeling the fascinator that I wore at Ascot when I went to England to go to the horse races. And then I have a hat that I wore to a wedding in England. So there we go. Now we're all fixed up and ready to read. I decided that I would read a little bit of my story today since I only have one. And it's a caper. I enjoyed writing it. It's the kind of story that if you're a writer, I think you'll get this. If you're writing a story and laughing out loud, I think it's always a good sign. So with the encouragement of my editor, Barb, we turned it into a fast-moving caper. And the story is called The Great Bedbug Incident and the Invitation of Doom. I always like to make a title first before I write the story. And in this case, I had a lot to cram into about 4,000 words. And part of the story is biographical. I was, in fact, invited to England to go to a book signing party. And I went, and I had some adventures in a hotel. And not to be a spoiler, but my adventure in England did not actually involve a dead body that was not on the written page. However, the character in my story is not quite so fortunate. So here's just a couple of paragraphs of the Great Bedbug Incident and the Invitation of Doom. I'm not normally much of a complainer, especially when I'm traveling abroad, but really, after the 1 a.m. Great Bedbug Incident, the dead body in my hotel bed at 4 a.m. was entirely too much. So I called down to the front desk to tell Charlie exactly that. Yes, Miss James, he sounded testy. I know you said all the hotel rooms were occupied. I know you said that U.S. reservations had made a mistake telling me that you had an opening and that you'd squeeze me in and give me someone else's room. And I guess you weren't kidding. Miss James, do you have a point? Seriously, like this guy had something else more pressing to do at this time of night, God's own witching hour, than talk to a paying customer? Charlie, I've brushed my teeth and I just took off my robe and slippers to go to bed, and I've made a discovery. This room is already occupied. I said this slowly and carefully because I realize the Brits sometimes have trouble with my sweet as honey Virginia accent. Impossible, came the clipped reply. 50-ish guy, gray crew cut, Caucasian. Looks a little heavy set, although it's hard to tell under the covers. Silence from Charlie, but I could hear his incredulity. I continued. Seems a nice enough chap. Note how I use the British slang word for guy to make Charlie feel at ease. But I can't tell what color his eyes are, seeing that they're closed. I mean, seeing how he's dead and all. Some sort of choking noise erupted from Charlie. I knew that bow tie had looked a little tight, and now he was paying the price. Y'all might want to call the police, I added to spur him into action. And I think I'd best come on down to the front desk and clear out of this room to make some room for the detectives. And if you want to find out what that story has to do with bed bugs, you're going to have to read it because I've run out of time. And it's great. I wish everybody all the luck in the world with this year's books and next year's. Thanks again.
Okay, well, it looks like that means I'm next. And I'm Libby Klein. I write the very funny Poppy McAllister mysteries. Poppy is a plus-sized, middle-aged widow who returns to her hometown of Cape May, New Jersey, to live with her great Aunt Ginny, who is a little bit crazy and her black smoke Persian, who is a lot bit naughty. She's going to her high school reunion to face off against the cheerleaders who bullied her. And one of them turns up dead in front of Poppy's old locker. Then the other one arrests her for the murder. That's how my series starts. And this year, I had 2 books come out. The first one is Theater Nights Are Murder, where the Cape May Senior Center is putting on a musical, and the seniors are all agog to try out for parts in Mamma Mia, a musical which half the cast is supposed to be college-aged. They're just tickled to death to be able to be on stage, and they're vying for position when one of their friends dies in a tragic accident, and the old biddies who run with Aunt Ginny are sure that it was murder. So they form a geriatric task force to catch and bring down the killer. It's one of my funniest books, and it's a lot of fun to read. It's just what we need during times of stress and the lockdown. If you want to escape for a while into something that's just fun and funny, what all of these seniors get into and the trouble that they create, it's just delightful. And then on Tuesday, coming up 3 days, my 5th book, Wine Tastings Are Murder, comes out. In Wine Tastings, Poppy's Bed and Breakfast is one of the tour stops on a wine tour, and one of the guests dies at the local winery. That forces Poppy to have to open the bed and breakfast to everyone on the wine tour. They're all now staying under her roof. It's one of the most creative and clever murder weapons that I've ever heard of. I had a lot of help coming up with it. It's a very surprising twist ending. And if you're a fan of my books and you've been following along the romance where Poppy has been choosing between 2 delightful men, this is the book you have been waiting for. This is the one that I've been harassed about for 2 years. Why is there a love triangle? It's all happening here. You don't want to start with Wine Tastings Are Murder because there's quite a punch coming. So you want to be really read up on the other 4 books in this series. I would love to have you buy them from Scrawl Books to help them out. My publisher would like you to buy them from Scrawl Books to help them out. But I'm just as happy if you get them from the Reston Library. Just don't tell the publisher I said that. I hope you guys all have wonderful holidays and good luck on all of your reading and writing, and have a wonderful time. Thank you so much. Oh, and next up is Jane, and I hope I say her last name correctly, Lymprecht.
Very good. Thank you. I'm Jane Lymprecht, and I'm very excited to have my first opportunity to participate in the Chesapeake Chapter extravaganza as a published author. This is my first published mystery short story, Make New Friends But Keep the Old, and it's included in the anthology Chesapeake Crimes Invitation to Murder, which was released last month by Wildside Press. Every story in the anthology involves an invitation of some sort. My story, set in a retirement community, begins at the monthly birthday luncheon for the assisted living residents. The luncheon offers a chance for residents and their guests to enjoy a delicious birthday meal with a steak dinner and all the trimmings. Unfortunately, on this particular day, before anyone gets the chance to dig into their meal, the guest of one resident shudders and falls forward with her face smashed into a baked potato, dead. Also sitting at the table are resident Margaret Madison, her daughter Ellen Walker, who has recently retired from a federal law enforcement agency and has an active antenna for possible fraud against older folks, and her granddaughter Christine Walker, who's a medical student who rushed to the stricken woman's aid, but to no avail. Working together and gathering a lot of community gossip along the way, they solve the mystery of Mrs. Taylor's death in a cozy amateur sleuth whodunit with some twists and turns along the way. I'd like to thank Barb for putting together the extravaganza, the Reston Library, of course, and Scrawl Books for making so many of these new books available for purchase. I hope that you will pick up a copy of Chesapeake Crimes Invitation to Murder, which contains 17 mystery and crime short stories. It's a great read and a great gift. Thank you. I'm sorry I don't have my list of who's next, but I think it might be GM Milet.
Malier. Yes, hi.
Malier.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was charming. Yeah, I was one of the judges on this anthology. You're seeing so much, and I can honestly, unprejudiced, I can tell you this is a very nice collection, very nice, fun story with new authors in it. You must, support new authors. That's how I got my start, is in an anthology just like this. And that was probably 12 years ago. I don't even remember. Anyway, I'm Jen Malier, and I want to thank the Fairfax Library System, Reston Library, Barb Goffman, who probably wishes many times a day that she had never said, "Oh, I'll do that." I know the feeling. So thank you for organizing us. And Scrawl Books, of course. I write the St. Just Mysteries. You know what? I meant to time myself. So someone just make a motion like this. If
I'm timing you.
Are you? Okay, good. Cut me off. I write the St. Just books. That's where the first series that I wrote. I've returned to that after 10 years. And I'm so really thrilled that that happened. My old publisher went out of business or quit, doing mystery novels. So they returned the rights to me, and I thought, well, now what? And what turned out to be write a fourth novel in the series, because it did pretty well. It got some awards and things. So I'm doing that. The publisher is Severn House in England, and they are a complete delight to work with. What else? I wrote the Max Tudor series, 7 books there. More to come, we'll see. Wakeham, a standalone, and short stories. This is my most recent Ellery Queen publication. This appeared in July, August, and it was called Murder at Moorhead Mews, which tells you probably all you need to know about the kind of books that I write. They're very British, they're very English. Magdalene is a sleuth, sort of on the Hercule Poirot model, operating between the wars in London. Max Tudor has been optioned for film, but this year that was probably not the best year in history to have a book making rounds in Hollywood, because nobody cares, frankly, or can do anything about it if they do. But that's, that'll come around again. I have a fourth book, Magdalene du Chateau. I'm looking at my notes if you wonder why I'm staring at the ceiling. Just please visit my website, join my mailing list if you want to know more. I have free downloads and free things if you join my mailing list. Thank you very much. I'm done. I don't know who comes next.
I think it's me.
Okay, Josh. Follow that. Yeah.
Thank you, Jen. And thanks to Barb and the Reston Library and Scrawl Books. I'm Josh Pachter. I'm one of the Sisters in Crime's Misters in Crime. And as Jen was just saying something about 2020, obviously is busy being just an incredibly horrible year in so very many ways. But it's actually been a career year for me. In January of this year, I became the first person, and I'm still, I guess, the only person who has published in Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine in 7 consecutive decades. And in May, I had the honor of receiving the Short Mystery Fiction Society's Edward D. Hoke Memorial Golden Derringer Award for Lifetime Achievement. And I also became the first and so far only person to receive that award and also win a competitive Derringer in the same year. So it's been a good year for me. Like Barb, I'm a short story writer, and I had 11 new short stories that either came out or are about to come out this year. There were 2 in Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine, 2 in Mystery Weekly, 1 each in Mystery Tribune, Black Cat Mystery Magazine, and Down and Out the magazine, plus another 4 in anthologies, including 1 in Invitation to Crime, the Chapters anthology, or Invitation to Murder rather, and 1, like Barb, will be side by side in Michael Bracken's upcoming in December anthology, Mickey Finn 21st Century Noir. I'm also a translator. I had 4 translations of short stories come out this year, 3 in Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine from 3 different languages, Dutch, which is my primary language, but also Chinese. And the Chinese story will be the December EQMM podcast. I'll be reading that. It's a Christmas story called Beijingle All the Way by a Chinese author. Appeared in the January, February issue this year, and it'll be the December podcast. And then I also did a story by an Italian author. And then I had 1 translation in Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine, again by a Dutch author. So particularly important for people who are interested in buying some books to put into Christmas stockings and under Hanukkah bushes, I edited or co-edited 3 anthologies this year. This is The Further Misadventures of Ellery Queen, which I co-edited with my friend Dale Andrews. We did one a couple of years ago for Wildside Press, and it sold well enough that we were asked to do a second one. I also did on my own the Misadventures of Nero Wolfe, which came out both in trade paperback and also in a large print hard-covered library-bound edition. I did that one for the Misadventures, for Mysterious Press. And then the one I'm the most excited about is the one that's been mentioned a couple of times already today, and that is The Beat of Black Wings, which was published by Untreed Reads in both paper and hardbound editions. And that's crime fiction inspired by the songs of Joni Mitchell. As you've heard already today, it has stories in it by Donna Andrews and Barb Goffman, and as you will hear, by Stacy Woodson, who will be speaking in a little bit. And then it also has stories by several of the people who spoke at the previous Mystery Authors Extravaganza a couple of weeks ago, Sherry Harris, Alan Orloff, and the first ever literary collaboration by our chapter members, Art Taylor and Tara Laskowski. And I should mention that anybody who buys that book, please know that 1/3 of the royalties generated by the project go to support, in Joni Mitchell's name, the great work that's being done by the Brain Aneurysm Foundation. Joni herself was an aneurysm sufferer in 2015, although she's really doing a great job of recovering, and the foundation is working to help other people afflicted with that serious condition. Because I've got a couple seconds left, I just will mention I'm looking forward to 2021, when I again have stories and 3 anthologies coming out. The anthologies are inspired by the songs of Jimmy Buffett and Billy Joel, and then one inspired by the films of the Marx Brothers. So I hope everybody has a great holiday season, and here's looking forward to a much better 2021 than 2020 has been. With great pleasure, I'm going to turn things over to Grace Topping.
Thank you, Josh. And thank you to everyone who put this together, Barb and the Reston Library. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a good year and a bad year. Good year in the fact that I had a book published this year, so it's always a good year. So like many of the others, my book is at the lighter end of the mystery spectrum. It's a cozy mystery, and you might ask, well, what is a cozy mystery? It has the puzzle that a mystery has, but it has an amateur sleuth, and it's what it doesn't have, the violence, sex, or strong language. So if that's what you're looking for, think in terms of Murder, She Wrote. In my mystery series, Laura Bishop has left a well-paying IT job to start her own business as a home stager, helping home owners prepare their homes for sale. Now, she knew the job could be murder, but she didn't expect it to include bodies. The first book in my series, Staging is Murder, Laura nabbed her first job as a home stager, staging a 19th century mansion that hasn't been updated for decades. But when a body falls from a laundry chute and lands at her feet, flowered wallpaper becomes the least of her home staging duties. To clear her young assistant of the murder, she's determined to find out who the killer was. But the meddling of a horoscope-guided friend, a determined grandmother, and the local funeral director could get them all killed before Laura props the first pillow. My second book, which just came out this past April, Staging Wars. In this book, Laura's business is becoming successful with everyone except her nemesis from the time that she was a kid. She long expected that Monica Heller of sabotaging her fledgling business and of also having been involved with her late husband. So Monica's not one of her favorite people. But when the ultra chic Monica is caught at the scene of a murder, Laura is plenty happy to imagine her languishing on bed sheets less than the 600 thread ones that she now will be using at the local prison. However, when the police start looking at some of her friends, Laura must overcome her dislike of Monica to solve the crime. Not an easy task because Laura and Monica have been at war since the second grade. The third in my series will be coming out this spring called Upstaged by Murder. If you like lighter mysteries with a dash of humor, check out Laura Bishop, the mystery series. They're also available in audio. And if I can't sleep at night, I click it on and I listen to my words being read to me by a fantastic actress. So it's a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy lighter mysteries, please give Laura Bishop Mystery Series a chance. And I'm happy to turn it over to Susie Weinert.
Hello there, I'm Susie Weinert, the author of 4 books in my Garage Sale Mystery Series. In my stories, Jennifer Shannon lives with her family in safe McLean, Virginia, until she stumbles into danger and intrigue linked to something she sees or hears or buys or someone she meets at these sales. My new book, just out last month, is titled Woman at the Garage Sale, and it has 4 unusual features. First of all my book covers show an actual garage sale item, which is then used in the book. Can you see this little item in the middle? This is a Shang Dynasty ancient bronze ritual wine goblet. And here is the actual one. It's a puzzle because nobody knows what the ancient rituals actually were. And we can suspect a sinister element. If form follows function, you'll notice this is a trough, and we can imagine that somebody would hold this little handle and drink from the trough. So far, so good. But then look at this side. It's very sharp, and we can imagine it was poked into something or someone, perhaps to collect blood. And then we see these strange towers on top, and we notice it has 3 very sharp pointed legs, which could be used as a weapon. The second oddity about this book is that one usually writes the story first and then draws the title from the story. But I had just finished reading A Woman in Cabin 10, Woman on the Train, A Woman at the Window, and so I picked Woman at the Garage Sale for the title. But then I had to invent a story to go with the title. And I'll read to you from the back of the book just how I accomplished that. Jennifer Shannon notices a familiar looking woman at a garage sale. But who is she? How is it possible that even after her death, this woman continues to entangle Jennifer and her family in a bewildering, life-changing web? And how does a forlorn teenage boy's unexpected role further this mystery? While struggling to relocate her mother to senior living, Jennifer must connect these dots and solve a suspicious death the police label suicide. Can she tackle it all while thwarting a villainous antique dealer intent on destroying her and all she holds dear? To answer those questions, you know what you need to do. Read the book. The third unusual feature is that I do a lot of research for my stories. For example, for this 4th book, I interviewed 2 Fairfax County police detectives, one from homicide and one from crime scene. I consulted with an attorney, a physician, a gun expert at a shooting range, 2 county fighters, a locksmith, 2 consultants for senior resident selection, and a Florida police sergeant who's a national facilitator on police department drone operations. So perhaps besides fiction and nonfiction, we need a new category called faction for books like mine. The fourth oddity is author age. My first book was published when I was 75, and this new book was published last month when I'm 85. So it isn't too late for seniors to still discover and strum their writing talent. Here are 2 real garage sale purchases used in my other books. This little doll is used in garage sale diamonds. The villains needed a place to put their diamonds, and so this little doll's soft body turned out to be the perfect solution. And you can see that she's used, let's see, I guess I have to do it this way, right here on the cover of the book. You don't see dragons very often at garage sales, and I had no intention of buying one this particular morning, but whether I chose it or it chose me, he came home with me. And I used him in my third book, Garage Sale Riddle, and you will see him pictured right over here. In a bit of very good luck, a Hollywood producer approached me about making a TV movie based on my first book, Garage Sale Stalker. That successful garage sale mystery pilot drew such viewer attention that Hallmark changed the name of its second channel from Hallmark Movie Channel to Hallmark Movie and Mystery Channel. Then they packed in a lot of mysteries and were very successful with that. But mine was the first mystery they used. They made 14 more 2-hour TV movies in what they called their garage sale mystery series. Guess who starred? Lori Loughlin. So in a bit of bad luck, we know that she got into mischief in real life in the Varsity Blues scandal, halting that TV series, at least temporarily. My books can be ordered from Amazon or any bookstore, such as Scrawl Books. They're also available on Kindle. My first and third novels can be downloaded from audible.com, and this new book will be on Audible as well in 2 months. Today's my first Sisters in Crime Chesapeake Chapter extravaganza event. I appreciate all those who arranged the event, Fairfax County Libraries for facilitating it, and Scrawl Books, and to all of you watching. Thank you very much. Next, I believe, is Kathy Wiley.
Yeah. Thank you, Susie. Good afternoon. As Susie said, my name is Kathy Wiley, and I've had 2 short stories published this year. The first was in the Invitation to Murder anthology. If anyone has ever had a guest overstay their welcome, you might agree with this story titled The Problem with Open-Ended Invitations. Cynthia Jensen is a generous, kind-hearted soul who invites her friend to stay at her house until she's back on her feet. When her friend stays for over a year and helps herself to everything in the house, including Cynthia's husband, Cynthia and her best friend Monique hatch a plot to punish her. When this goes really, really wrong, Cynthia struggles with guilt and also with the need to know why. My second story is called The Main Attraction, and that will be in Masthead, the Best New England Crime Stories anthology, which will be published at the end of the month, so I don't have a pretty cover to show you. In this story, Kelsey and her husband, Professor Stephen Wellington, are enjoying a working vacation in Maine. While enjoying views of rocks and water, they find a dead body floating in the ocean. After discovering that that deceased person was a young woman who was also a college student at the college where Stephen is doing research, Kelsey decides to do some research of her own. As many people have said, thank you so much to Barb Goffman for organizing this, to Reston Library for hosting it, to Scrawl Books for selling, and to everybody for attending. So I hope everyone has wonderful holidays at the end of this not so good year. I'm always happy when Stacy Woodson is at an event with me because it means I'm not last. So last but certainly not least is Stacy Woodson.
Thank you. How do I, yeah, the Woodson, the W does it. I was a Bola, just so you know, before I got married. So it's definitely just the way things go. Thank you to the Reston Library for hosting us and the wonderful readers who are here today. Despite 2020 and everything that came with it, I was fortunate to have several short stories published this year, ranging from cozy mysteries to noir. My puzzle-solving postmaster, Mabel Fitzgibbons, along with her pun-loving niece, made 4 appearances in Solve-It-Yourself Mysteries for Women's World, starting with The Crust of the Matter, followed by Game of Knowns, then Metal Without a Cause, and concluding with Better Late Than Never. She also appeared in the May issue of Mystery Weekly magazine with the story Desperate Letters. So those were a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed escaping into those this year. The tales that follow take a darker turn. A disillusioned soldier returns to the States to bury 2 fallen comrades and must choose between honor and loyalty in the story River, which is included in the anthology The Beat of Black Wings, crime fiction inspired by the songs of Joni Mitchell, which I'm very proud to be part of. My story Sunnyside was also featured in Chesapeake Crime's Invitation to Murder. Wise guy turned rat Mickey Two Guns Baldino moves into a Florida retirement home and finds himself face to face with a hitman he spent his life trying to avoid. My next story, Mary Poppins Didn't Have Tattoos, appeared in the July-August 2020 issue of Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine. A simple babysitting gig turns deadly when Marcella and her niece face off with a killer, which I share pages with Jen. I think Josh as well in this one, but it's hard. Josh has so many in there, I can't keep them straight. Finally, in December, I will be joining Josh and Barb in Mickey Finn 21st Century Noir, which releases on December 14th with my story Killer Sushi. Another dark tale. It's about 2 heartbroken soldiers who go to their favorite sushi joint to drown in their sorrows and they get more than they bargained for in this twisted culinary tale. So that's kind of my the stories that I've had published this year. I have to say Chesapeake our Chesapeake chapter is such a beautiful community of writers who also happen to be talented storytellers. So I feel very grateful to be a part of this community. And I'm also grateful to loyal readers like you. I hope you've enjoyed our session today. And with that, I will turn it over to Barb Goffman.
All right. Thank you, Stacy. And thank you everybody who came today. Normally can people hear me? If you can hear me, wave. Somebody wave. Stacy wave, because you're the only one on the screen. Okay, well good, then people can hear me. Sorry about that. Anyway, thank you all so much for coming today. I want to thank the Reston Library for hosting this and making this all possible. I want to thank all the authors for signing up and all the readers for listening and buying books and supporting the library, because libraries exist to help us. And when you take books out from the library, you not only help the library, but you help publishers and you help authors. So if you can't buy books from Scrawl, please take them out from the library or request them from the library so they will buy them. And I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving and a happy holiday season. And I'm going to turn this over to Adrienne from the library.
He needs to unmute.
Okay, maybe Adrienne isn't going to be speaking?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you to the presenters for sharing your works with us. I've got such a great reading list right now. Just a couple of things before everybody goes. I want to plug a couple of programs that we have coming up. On December 5th, the library is hosting a virtual self-publishing seminar that will feature 2 local authors who have experience with publishing their own works. One is Shabnam Curtis, who published her memoirs of growing up during the Iranian Revolution, and also a local fantasy author, James V., who has experience with BiblioBoard, which is an online publishing platform that FCPL cardholders now have free access to. And then also on December 16th, we have a virtual program called Tea with Jane Austen, where you can make yourself a cup of tea and celebrate Jane Austen's birthday with us. and there'll be a discussion of her books, her life, and her impact. And registration for that starts on December 2nd. And so that's it. All right, well, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Bye. Bye, Susie. Love
Bye,
you.
Annie.